Ye, who accompany the bear to the house of rest, who pilot the ship of Ra, ever advancing onwards the heights of heaven, Lord of the shrine, which standeth in the center of the earth. Behold, he is me, and I am him. Mine is the radiance, wherein Ta floateth over the firmament. I travel upon high, I tread upon the firmament of Nu. I raise a flashing flame with the lightning of mine eye, ever rushing on the splendor of the
My third eye's open, I can see past the commotion. I can't get lost in the moment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I live on the side with the chosen. Higher dimensions we going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My third eye open, I can see past the commotion. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I live on the side with the chosen. Higher dimensions we going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm guaranteed to check like TSA. One in a million like a
no more. But in the time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Chem, if
Okay. Grand day, everybody. Welcome in to the SaCrEd Light Nightcap. And we are going to be exploring the Emerald Tablets tonight. The Emerald Tablets, if you're familiar with the Emerald Tablets are teachings. They are transmissions from Thoth the Atlantean. And Thoth the Atlantean is a guide, a spiritual being. And he helped with bringing the knowledge and the information of the universe to the Atlanteans as well as ancient Egyptians. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the text version of the Emerald Tablets. And then we will start at the beginning and go through the transmissions. And yes, you can find this for free pretty much commonly on the internet. All right, so we got them right here. If you guys want, I'll link them in the description as well for you. All right. So before we begin, I'm just going to go ahead and give us a moment to ground ourselves and bring ourselves into this space and get present. And as we do this, to get ourselves nice and clear and centered, we are just going to use our breath and consciously ground ourselves and bring ourselves to the present moment. Just relax the shoulders, relax the body. Now focus on the breath, just breathing into the nose. And breathing out of the mouth. Let's take maybe like 2 more of those breaths. And as we move into this space tonight, I'd just like to give gratitude to all of you. And I'd like to give gratitude for this space, this knowledge and wisdom that we are going to explore. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. So these tablets, they are wisdom, keys of knowledge about the universe, ways of affirming your connection to the Creator. Very similar to scripture, very similar to spiritual text. All right. So as you guys see, we have the tablets right here in the text. All right, so the history of Thoth, the Atlantean. There we go. All right, so it says, I, Thoth, the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, sit down for the guidance of that are to come after. These records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis, in the great city of Kor, on the island of Undal, is a time far past I begin this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did. The mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from aeon to aeon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind. Wow, this is, do Do we start dissecting already? Jeez. Chat, please, let me know. Do we continue? Or do we start dissecting already? Because wow. Welcome, Sarah. Good to see you. Welcome in, everybody else. Feel free to comment as much as you would like, participate. I love to interact. And get yourself comfortable. Get some tea, some water, any snacks. Maybe smoke a little bit, whatever you like to do. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the frequencies. I like to play some meditation music in the background. And we're exploring the Emerald Tablets. And we're starting at the very beginning with Tablet 1. And wow, we are getting spicy already, I tell you. Man, the Emerald Tablets. So, here's something about the history of myself a little bit. When I first heard about the Emerald Tablets, I heard about them back in, I think it was like 2014. And I was getting into meditation at the time, for like the first time. And I had a Lemurian quartz crystal. Are you guys familiar with Lemurian quartz? If you are, put in the comments. Welcome in, Lunar Queen. So I had this Lemurian quartz crystal, and I decided that I was going to lay down on my couch and meditate through the whole entire audiobook of the Emerald Tablets. So with that being said, I laid on my couch and I placed the Lemurian quartz on my third eye and just laid there on my back on the couch for about 2 hours straight, listening to the full audiobook of the Emerald Tablets. So I was guided to do this, by my guides or by these beings of light and maybe even Thoth. And it was like it was a way to download and process the Emerald Tablets knowledge and wisdom into my third eye center and basically reprogram with it. And it made a lot of sense, like, wow, we should do that more often, like meditate through scripture or meditate through channels, and allow yourself to also maybe even use a crystal like a quartz, which is able to capture information and amplify it. So yeah, that was quite the experience. That was my first interaction with the Emerald Tablets. And ever since, I've just the times I've listened to it, it's just been so naturally remembered for me at this point. But that's the power that we have. We can reprogram ourselves to anything that we feel aligned with. And the more that we just intentionally place it into our mind, the more we will naturally develop patterns and programming surrounding what that is. You said you woke up with a huge download, huh? Okay. What was that download? Welcome in, everybody. Get yourselves cozy. Enjoy yourselves. How do you guys like the meditation music in the background? Woke up with a huge download. talking about you. All right, so now that some other folks are in the building now, I'm gonna kind of go over this first paragraph, because man, yeah, we got to travel a little bit here. All right, you guys ready? Because this is deep. I need you guys to pay attention. All right, here we go. This is Emerald Tablet number 1. We got Thoth the Atlantean. So it's called The History of Thoth. So when we go through this, I'd like for you guys to remember that this is from an I am standpoint. So when you're reading this is also about you and me and Thoth and all of us. It is about the I am presence, all as one consciousness. So when you're reading this, you're also reading to your own self about your own self as well, because you do these things that you're reading, as in you descend into darkness and ascend into light millions of times. You've incarnated a bunch of times. There's just a lot of things that we all do as the I am, and this is about being the I am. So I just wanted to clear the air with that first. This isn't about anything separate. There's no separate beings. There's no God that's better than anybody. This is about the I am. So it's the I am standpoint that we're receiving from here. All right, and we begin. And I advise anybody to stay with the breath if they need, as this information can definitely be activating and triggering. Please remember the breath if you need it. So here we go, Emerald Tablet number 1. I Thoth the Atlantean, Master of Mysteries, Keeper of Records, Mighty King, Magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down in the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom for Great Atlantis. In the great city of Koar, on the island of Undal, at a time far past, I began this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did, that mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from aeon to aeon did they renew that life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. So I'm going to highlight and key this very last 4 lines here that we just went over. And I'd like to see what you guys have to see and think about this as well. Is 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. So I'm curious if you guys want to share, what is your guys' take on that? Those last 4 lines that we just went over there. Feel free to put in the comments what you feel from it. So for me, reading that, talking about, descending into darkness, but then also saying that the darkness leads into light, and then vice versa, ascending from being in darkness into the light. there's so many things you can dissect from that, I feel like. And, one of that is the polarities or the duality of life being spoken on. Being spoken on how it's natural. It's a natural law or part of it to experience the darkness, but remembering that you're still the eternal light and that life is eternal. And with that also, we speak on this a lot throughout these episodes and other spaces, and really the big conversations that we're having nowadays, these communities. We speak on facing our shadows, shadow work, and how important it is to integrate your shadow. And that's also part of the darkness that we're speaking on here. We descend into our shadow world or the underworld. And we think about what the underworld is, it's referenced with beings like Anubis, Persephone. Think about the phoenix or the lotus. Think about all these different things that rise out of the ashes or rise out of the darkness or the underworld. This is very identical to what we're speaking on here with Thoth in his first Emerald Tablet, where he's saying that he has, 100 times 10 on into the darkness and into the light, and then also ascended from being in darkness into the light. So it's very simple, symbolic meanings behind basically like puzzle-like mysteries. Does that make sense? Kind of like puzzle-like mysteries. My left ear is ringing so loud right now. Do you guys get the ear rings a lot? So that's what I really love about this type of text here that we're studying, the Emerald Tablets, is the symbolism. Not only the symbolism, but the way that it allows you to, articulate and put all the puzzle pieces together within your own mind without blatantly giving it away. Now that's really some fruitful wisdom where you acquire, but it allows you to be able to put your own full picture to the wisdom. And also keep in mind too that there really is no right or wrong to our translations. Some will resonate with certain translations and some will resonate with other translations. And keep in mind too that for you and your existence and your reality of connection in life, your own intuitive messaging and your own intuitive guidance or intuitive awareness of what you feel is the resonance and truth for you. That's all you really need within yourself. And then you can just kind of hold that within you and just know it to be true and is continue to live and do things that you like to do. All right. Am I still here? Let me make sure the Wi-Fi is good. Okay, cool. Okay, so continuing. So if you have any questions so far, just feel free to put them in the comments. But what I really like about that first part is the simplicity of the reminder that, we go through darkness daily. We go through darkness and light, and it's going to happen here. It's part of existence. It's a part of the journey, and it's something that we do at our own free will. Think about that. We experience darkness at our own free will. Think about how powerful we have to be as these multidimensional sovereign beings, these soul beings, to be able to descend and ascend through light at our own free will. Now, yes, while we're in these third dimensional human bodies, these human avatars, it may seem or feel like it's a long time because of the rate of vibration and the density of the human brain and the human process. But in higher vibrational realms, where the density is lighter and things are moving more quantum and quickly, things are more rapid. Things that feel like a couple of years here, you're able to do maybe 10 times the years in higher dimensions. So right off the bat, we're really just getting straight to the point of we are these very, very powerful, pure beings of divine light. And think about that. Like, we come into this human life at our own free will and go through all this pain and suffering and all these different things at our own free will, even knowing ahead of time that we would be going through such level of things that we'd be facing on this planet. And we are powerful enough to know that, to choose to come here still, to know that we will experience what we need to experience, and then continue forward into another form. And we've done that before many times, many times. And that's what Thoth is basically saying here in the first Emerald Tablet so far, is that, as the I am, as Thoth, or as even me, Marcus, or as you, and anybody else, we have descended into these different dimensions and into these different bodies and forms of darkness and light many times, and we will continue to. So we'll go ahead and continue from there. So I will go ahead and continue where we were and then pick up. So we have 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem, or Egypt, shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring the accounting of those left behind. Then beware, O men of Chem, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely will I return again, and require of thee that which ye guard. Yea, even from behind or beyond time, and from beneath or from beyond death will I return. Let me read that again to you guys. Even from beyond time and from beyond death will I return, rewarding or punishing as ye have requited your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me. Knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity, knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And all of these, great among the children of men, was my Father, taught me, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light, who dwelt within the temple, and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands. Masterpiece after the 3 of the dwell of Unal, speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my Father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, till it burst to a consuming flame. Not desired I but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived, for not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate in a physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purposes might be fulfilled, purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ago, long ages, I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet ever more wisdom, until I too approached the light emitted from the great fire. Taught me be the path to Amenti, the underworld where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of light. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed till space and time became as naught. Then having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men. There found I great mysteries, and I was glad, for only in the search for truth did my soul be stilled, and the flame within be quenched. Wow, okay. I'm gonna take a breath for that. All right. So we have, of course, there's multiple ways we can translate this. We got to talk about the children of light. So, we talk about star seeds, we talk about indigo children, crystal children, the rainbow children. We talk about different galactic species. And it's all relevant to this right here that we're speaking on. The Christ conscious beings, the beings that are just not living their life according to the laws of this world or the limitations of what people are saying and doctors and all that type of stuff. There's beings here that are aware that there's star seeds, that they come from different planets, that they have very powerful DNA. And welcome in, Casey. Good to see you. We're going over the Emerald Tablet right now, the first one. So, Thoth is just speaking about basically being a part of that, being a part of the star seeds. And not just that, but being kind of like a mentor or a teacher for the children of light, which is the star seeds. So this is so deep, like, holy smokes. Give me a moment here. Let me figure out where to start. Okay, here we go. So this is very, very identical to basically Yeshua teachings. Yeshua as in Jesus. Like, these are Christ conscious teachings. So like I was saying earlier, these are from an I am standpoint. This is also about you. This is about me. It's about our internal Christ consciousness system. Talk about descending into darkness and ascending into light. That is our transmutation process, our awakening. So, talks about the children of the light, the star children, the star seeds. And he's speaking on a time in Atlantis where there was a lot of very activated star seeds. And basically what this means is there was a lot of beings that were in their light bodies during Atlantis due to the vibration of their collective and their planetary grid. So he says here, and all of these greatest among the children of men was my father Thoth.
keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwell within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands. See, the 10 islands, this was back during a time where they were more so islands than countries. So that's why you had Atlantis and Lemuria, and they were islands. So apparently there was 10 islands at the time. So then it talks about Thoth being taught by his father the mysteries or the universal laws, passing down the wisdom. And I see a line here where it says, children of light, when they are not incarnate in a physical body. He even fully says here, when they are not incarnate in a physical body. So he is stating, that there are ways of existing, that there are beings, there's consciousness that exists, but does not incarnate with a physical body. So that right there is evidence and proof in this Emerald Tablet, number 1 already, that there are etheric or higher dimensional beings of light that do not have physical bodies but are existing. Quite powerful stuff already. I mean, we're just kicking off this whole entire series here, the Emerald Tablets. And we're already getting into the talk of basically multidimensional beings, light beings, and beings that are not of the physical body. Yes, this is day 1. Yeah, this is the first tablet. We just started. I mean, that's already a lot to kind of process. I mean, oof, wow. So I'll read that line to you guys again before we continue. But he said, few were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived. For not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate in a physical body. Hmm. Wow. Hey, that's awesome that you want to be here for the whole thing. I love to hear that, Casey. Welcome to everybody else that have just popped in. Hydration check for everybody. Make sure you guys got good water. I'm actually gonna go grab some water right now. And you guys want to go ahead and take a break for a moment. Grab some water and hydrate, whatever you need to do. Get comfortable if you're just joining us. And I'm gonna grab some water. And then I'll be right back here. But if you guys want to start reading where we are or where we left off, feel free. And it's right there on the screen for you guys. Well, give me like 2 minutes and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Alright, so we're going to continue breaking this down a little bit. We have chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purposes might be fulfilled. Purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet, ever more wisdom, until I, too, approached the light emitted from the great fire. Taught me he the path to Amenti, the underworld, where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bow in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Ooh, okay. It's so powerful. You can feel it in your brain chemistry when you read this. Like, tell me you guys' third eyes are not buzzing. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so he's now talking about, wow. So he's now talking about basically his experience of his interaction with Source, with Christ consciousness, with, what we call God. And he's basically explaining how the channel comes through for him. And he's describing being in temples, going through the mysteries, going through self-discipline and practices, the meditations, the yogics. And this is very similar to Yeshua, to Jesus. You hear about Jesus, he went to the schools, he went to the Tibetan monks, he meditated out in the mountains, he went through very deep self-discipline and practices. And through those practices and self-discipline, obtained Christ consciousness, activating the Kundalini, awakening the energy system. So Thoth is explaining very, very parallel teachings of the I Am, just like Yeshua, and just like Buddha, just like Krishna. They're all speaking from an I Am standpoint. When they speak about how powerful they are within and being so connected to the source or to the creator, it's also from a standpoint that you are as well. Each and every one of us, and no one's excluded. Nothing is excluded because it all comes from the source. So with that being said, it then continues forward. And it talks about becoming free. Becoming free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed until space-time became as naught. And then right before that it says, "The deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life." Okay, so what this is telling me is that after descending from the soul level down into the third dimension, into a physical vessel, into a physical body, which is in darkness, due to it being in the third dimension, we now experience in the darkness or the underworld, the third dimension, and that we ascend as the darkness in the third dimension through our vessel. And he speaks on doing this thousands and thousands of times. So then he's speaking on bowing in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. So with that being said, the lords of death are simply the ones that help keep the order. The ones that help bring closing, transformation, change in existence. Not just that, but they also help us see our shadow, and they help us come into connection and relation with our shadow. So as we go through the dimension, there's different lords, there's different beings that help govern and make sure that there is the law of one, or the order, through the different dimensions. So he sat with the lords of death and life, and we all sit with the lords of life and death as we go through these journeys. Think about how many times you've gone through a spiritual death in your life, and you've also been through an enlightenment in your life. So it's no stranger to any of us what it's like to sit with lords of life and lords of death. And with that, receiving as my gift the key of life. So to sum that up very simply, by coming to acceptance that life and death are in continuation with each other as a cohesive unit, as one turning into the other, and one turning into the other again, while the other turns into the other and continues to transmute into each other. Then it keeps you in a karmic cycle when you continue to believe that it's real, or to believe that it has power over you, or that it is everything. It's finite. It's a destination. When we let go of any of those concepts about it I just named, then we access the key of life. And that key of life is us not being attached to the world. This is also why Yeshua says in Scripture, be in the world, but not of it. Because when you're of the world, you're attaching and allowing yourself to live based off of polarity, duality, darkness, instead of harmony, balance, clarity, wholeness, Christ consciousness. So through the acceptance of life and death, being as one, basically being that life is death and death is life, you then realize that life is eternal. It's like, I was having this conversation yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago. And this conversation was about how we're in existence and everything exists. Even what we call dreams is also existing in some type of dimension. It's some type of dimension to be able to be an experience. Now, it may not seem real to the third dimension or to our human senses, but that doesn't mean it's not existing from other perspectives in different dimensions as well. So then it brought me to, okay, well then what's really fake? What's actually real and what's fake? We like to experience things, but then just write it off as fake. And we never explore it. We never go deep into what it is that we experienced. We just passively say it was fake. So I just started thinking about that for a moment. And I was like, wait a minute. If we live in a real existing multiverse, then things that we're calling fake are existing somewhere and aren't fake where it's existing. So it was just like really interesting to come across that type of perspective. And it started like really expanding my mind past a lot of barriers of third dimensional limitation. And I'm now in this place lately, like especially within the last like month, I'm like now in this place where my perspective is being so dimensionally expanded that I'm getting almost to a point where there's like no barriers of dimension at this point. It's pretty wild. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's integrated, like very integrated for me. But yeah, it's interesting because they always say, like in the Kabbalion, the Hermetic principles, it talks about the laws of energy, and it talks about how the higher laws always have kind of like the higher laws trump the lower laws because the lower laws are within the higher laws, and the higher laws is the lower laws but more expanded with more growth. And when you're in the higher dimensional perspective, you can see the lower dimensional perspectives from a, detached standpoint, because it just is to you. So I'm sure some of us may be feeling this and experiencing this in our lives as well. And just know that you're not alone with these multidimensional experiences and very unfathomable things that you could be experiencing. And just know you're valid. You're very valid in your experiences. And there's a lot of things that we haven't really been taught in the mainstream world. And it's a very potent time that we're in, especially on the planet, the planetary grid system, the way that so many things are shifting, just so many things. And happy new moon, happy Chinese New Year to everybody. Officially the wooden snake here in Chinese New Year. This is good stuff. But again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them, and I will definitely get to them. Glad that resonates with you, Lula Bello. All right, so continuing with Emerald Tablet 1, we talked about basically bringing the balance, bringing the harmony between the light and dark, is what Thoth is saying. Through finding the balance and finding the harmony of light and dark in his life, he was given the key of life, which is Christ consciousness, being in the embodiment and the balance of both our light and dark polarities. So then he says, free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. Okay, so he's saying that through that balancing, through that harmony of, let me make sure this is, let me enlarge that for you guys. There we go. So again, he's saying, free was I from the halls of Amenti. So he's saying through finding this balance, coming to a harmonic resolution of the darkness and the light of his life and who he is, he's able to access the path of the straight and narrow, the Christ consciousness, the balanced state of being. When he says free from the halls of Amenti, that means he was no longer being attached, creating karmic energy to the world due to being detached and having a healthy, balanced being. So if you remember, he described how he got up to this stage of self-mastery. And as we went over, he talked about sitting in the temples, sitting with the different lords, going through the deep practices, the deep meditations, the deep studies of the mystery schools. And through all of that, found the balance of the masculine and the feminine within. So he freed himself from the halls of Amenti, freed himself from karmic energy of this world, freed himself of the past and the future, the Akasha. Bound not by the death for the circle of life, far from the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. So bound not by the death, by death to the circle of life. Very deep line there. Very deep line. Bow not by death to the circle of life. Which means he purified and lightened his body, not his body, but his being, mind, body, soul complex. He brought so much light and clarity to his being. That he was no longer bound to the world. You gotta keep in mind too that this is also very much a mental description. Everything in the universe is mental. The all is mind. So this is also about the mind and the embodiment of the mind. So he took his perspective, his mind became balanced. His mind became in a state of there is no longer life or death. Everything just is. It's an experience. And it's different vibrational dimensions of mental conscious experiences through different forms as the all eternal self. So with that, you realize that there is no circle of life for you to be a part of. because there's therefore no more lessons to be learned. Because if you know that you're the all-eternal self, what do you need to learn? There's not anything for you to learn. So it's time for you to just create. You just create in the awareness of being the all-eternal self. See, we only go through lessons in the lower dimensions because we go through ignorance. We go through ignorance of who we are. And it's meant to be that way in these lower dimensions. It's part of it. Because it's a darker vibration. It's a darker realm of existence. Because the vibration is more dense. Whew. Yeah, so I'm like really taking my time through this with you guys because this stuff is deep. Like when I say deep, man, this stuff is as deep as it really gets psychologically. In the way that it can change your whole entire paradigm and perspective, which then changes your chemistry of your whole entire being in the way that you exist. So, continuing, he talks about no longer being in the circle of life. So, when we no longer need to be in the circle of life, we just realize that we're eternal and that life is eternal and that we're just infinitely co-creating as the all self. So, therefore, like, really, like, what circle is there of life? Because you're just all that is. So then it says, far from the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. So again, that's just like a extra clarification of what we just spoke on there. He went so far in his mental consciousness of who he identified and believed himself to be that he no longer had an identity, no longer had an attachment of labeling who they were, because they're all that is in their source. So what is there to label? No longer attaching to the illusion, the Maya. The Maya is space-time. How is this for you guys, Casey and Lulabella? So this is very just very awesome. Very awesome how Thoth left this for us. And just think about it. You guys can access this mental perspective that's being described by Thoth right now in this moment. Think about that. Right now in this moment, you can think this way about your own self, in the way that you exist, and choose to continue to repeat it to yourself as an affirmation and start to reprogram yourself. And that's pretty much what I started doing with these Emerald Tablets when I laid down and meditated for 2 hours straight, listening to the audiobook with a Lemurian starseed on my third eye chakra. So, we're now talking about mentally letting go and detaching from the duality. And then it says, then having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there I found greater mysteries and was glad. For only in the search for truth could any soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. So, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, this is saying after going through many of the experiences of the contrast from the dark to the light, which then developed wisdom through experience in these earth walks and different walks of life. Look into the hearts of men, and there I found the great mysteries and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. So then it says, down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death, and return again in the light of life. Gradually from the kingdom of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by spawn of a lower star. So when he says, down through the ages I've lived, it's basically just saying that just because a cycle happens, or just because things change in the world or change in life, it doesn't mean that we're still not an eternal soul or an eternal being, observing the changes, observing the world as it passes by. Think about that. Think about that for a moment. Once you obtain the key to life, you remember that you're an eternal being. That you are not your body, that you are more than the body. You are beyond duality and darkness. You are eternal. You're all that is, the source. There really is nothing else but the source. That's the key of life. Right there, plain and simple. The key of life is that there is nothing else but the source. Therefore, we are all the source, and all that is the source. That's the key to life and death. Because then there is no life and death, because everything is just the source, infinitely experiencing itself. So with that being said, that then allows you to live through the ages. Because the ages are really illusions. Like, yes, they are experienced, but they are conceptions of our mind. Fragmented perceptions. We only see a narrow perspective of the whole entire picture when we're in a human lens. So we believe that, that times end, or that a world is going to come to an end. That's because it's something concepted inside of our mind, no longer existing in our reality. But when you realize that you are not the age of your body, you are not the time of the world, but you are the eternal soul that is observing time and space, that is a traveler through time and space at free will. Then you realize that you are living through ages. It's not that you are coming to an end when this body dies, quote unquote. That's not the end of your life. You're still living. You're eternally living. And you're just fragmenting yourself into different forms to experience through different lenses and perspectives of the whole cosmos. And that's what Thoth is saying about himself, and that's what he's saying as the I am. So as he's telling the story of who he is in the first tablet, this is where he's coming from, what we're describing here, this perspective of the I am. So Thoth also is not saying this as a separate being that is more smart or more advanced than anybody else. Just from a perspective of being that I am. So as we continue, it says here, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. So when it says those around me taste of the cup of death, so what this is saying here is when we taste of the cup of death, Death is simply when we come to the mental state of awareness or our mental perspective and start perceiving life as being separate, as being divided. It's when we forget, when we're in the embodiment of forgetting that we are Christ consciousness, that we are connected to the source, all that is, and experiencing itself through all of us as itself. That is death. Death is when you're in the state and the embodiment of forgetting that you are connected to the eternal source of life, always. But when we come into this existence, into this third dimensional body, due to the density, we become very ignorant of the light, which means we're consumed by darkness. That's what's called sin. Sin is when we're very much consumed by the darkness of forgetfulness, forgetting that we are the eternal light. So we have a journey. We play. We explore on a soul level at our own free will in these different bodies, different roles and different existences. And it's not good or bad, it's just the eternal game of life. So as we continue, that's what he means by seeing them around him, having a taste of death, but then returning into the light of life. So it's simply just going into forgetfulness. He experienced people around him in his human life where these humans forgot that they were connected to the source. They were forgetful of their higher self. So therefore, they were in the energy of death. And they returned again in the light of life. And that's just simply when they mentally remembered and came to the embodiment and awareness that, oh yeah, I am connected to the source. Think about how many times we go through that in a lifetime or in a body. I mean, it's countless times that we mentally go through that. A death and a rebirth cycle. I mean, we probably all still do it to this day, no matter how spiritual we are. There could be the smallest to the biggest little mental death and rebirth that we go through because of the way that we thought about something or the way that we felt or perceived something, and then we have it shattered and shifted because of a new discovery. So then as we continue, he says, gradually from the kingdoms of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure it's on the full screen. Down into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last, in the wrath from his Agwanti, the dweller, speaking the word, calling the power. The word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans. Wow. Okay. Give me a moment on this one. Oh, okay, wow. Wow, okay. Okay, I just got the big decipher there. Wow, that came through deeply. Whew, wow. Thank you guys for bearing with me with that one. So, wow, that's deep. So, Thoth is actually describing how Atlantis fell. Thoth is telling the story of how Atlantis fell here. This is... I need a moment, actually. I'm feeling this very deeply through my energy body. Whoa. This might be a big deciphering for some of us as we come across this tonight. Well, not just tonight, but any other time. Yeah, there's a reason why I take my time with this type of text. This is very potent information. This is the information that's been passed on from civilization to civilization that is keeping the fabric of truth in the law of one through this dimension. So, okay. Now I'm going to invite you into the perspective that as we go through this again, as I go through this reading again, right here, that this is now coming from the perspective of telling the story of how Thoth experienced the fall of Atlantis. Because this is Thoth explaining to us through his embodiment and his incarnation in Atlantis how he witnessed and experienced it fall. Because remember, this is the life story that he's giving of himself during Atlantis. So, down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. So also with that too, he's also saying that he's seen souls, pass from civilizations falling and then coming back into different bodies and different forms and different civilizations to have to learn the same lessons while he continues to stay in the eternal awareness while in this dimension. It's amazing. We can live way beyond, one generation or one civilization. We can actually be. It's very deep. Like when you can really master a state of who you are, an awareness of who you are, and remember that you're not the body, you're not the human, then you're able to really be able to surf this dimension at a different way of free will without the body, the physical body. And then you can make your own physical body to be in part of while you're still on the earth in your energy body. So that's a whole other conversation. So yes, he's describing here basically the fall of Atlantis from his perspective as Thoth the Atlantean. So he says, gradually from the kingdom of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by spawn of a lower star. So it sounds like to me what he's saying is that throughout time, if you watch corruption take form in Atlantis, this corruption may have been through influence of negative polarity beings. As he says, spawn of a lower star. Maybe talking about the archons, draconian-like beings. But either way, when we keep this in context of oneness, this is also talking about our lower nature, our lower consciousness, consuming us, basically. And when that happens, it topples over and it collapses our Christ consciousness, our heavenly state. So basically what he's saying is that as more of the Atlanteans became corrupt with the energy and the influence and the power that they had, as they weren't taking care of the eternal flame, it became too consumed by life and death. Wow. This is so deep too, because when you put in the perspective as you, and you think about our current life, so it's another type of perspective. Think about our current life and think of it in relation to this. Think about how many times in life, you have a very clear consciousness of what you're doing and what you're not going to do and why you're not going to do it. And then think about when you have people around you that you can kind of tell are not in the right state of mind, or in kind of like a polluted or toxic state of mind, and you just watch them come and go with their waves of consciousness. But the next thing you know, they get consumed by the darkness that they're going through. But then they come back around because they came back to clarity. So you can find this stuff in comparison to your modern and current life as well. If you just pay attention to the relationships that you have, the way that your own mind works daily, the way that you interact with others, or the way that they're going through things, you see these examples that Thoth is saying in his story of his life. And it's what we're experiencing as well in this daily life as well. Just in different ways, in different metaphors. So it's also saying that he doesn't give in to his lower nature. Doesn't give in to the lower nature, and doesn't give in to the desires of the flesh. Doesn't give in to the darkness. And due to that, he just speaks on how he's watched people come and go, getting consumed by the darkness. It's just like when you're staying steady and staying on course and staying on your path in your life, and you have a bunch of seasons of friends, and it's just seasons of people in and out of your life, because they may have to go through some lessons that are just not for you to go through, because you're continuing to stay steadfast on your disciplines and your structure and the things that keep you aligned. Love and blessings, Holly. Good to see you. We are diving super deep and super intricately through Emerald Tablet 1 right now, of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And we are doing some rewiring and reprogramming right now. I'll tell you that. This first tablet is very deep. You can definitely watch the replay for anybody that's just tapping in on YouTube and Instagram. Let's see here. So he says, in obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last in the wrath arose from his Aguanti, the dweller, speaking the word, calling the power. Okay. sometimes these take a moment to decipher. Okay, so this is describing the creation process. This is describing how the traveling of dimensions from the higher dimensions to the lower dimensions, and from the lower dimensions to the higher dimensions, symbolically takes place. So he says, in obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last in his wrath arose from his Asguanti the dweller, speaking the word, calling the power. So he described how Atlantis fell into darkness. And then it talks about the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into the darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans. Wow, so deep. It takes a moment to be able to translate the words for this. Okay. So this is pretty much saying that the Atlanteans became so corrupt into darkness that their civilization ended up facing the wrath of destruction. And it got to a point where it was so consumed by darkness that the only thing that could save Atlantis was a complete and total cataclysmic destruction to the civilization. That is super sad. And I can feel that in my heart chakra right now. Very sad. That whole civilization had to experience a total devastation to their civilization due to the karmic energy that they had created with the corruption in their experience. think some of us souls are still grieving from this time, still letting go. It makes sense to think about that. You know, I've had this download before, years ago, not even related to this specifically, just about, you know, like how the Creator has these things in place through universal law and vibration, energy, that something gets to the farthest extreme, then there has to be something in place in order to reset and bring destruction to the extreme imbalance, because it hits a threshold to where it has to reset and break into a new beginning. Sometimes that could be a total cataclysmic event that could seem devastating from the third dimension, but it could seem like it's the only way necessary from the higher dimensions in order to bring a reset and cleanse to the lower dimensions. So I trust that will make sense for those of us that are ready. But that is from a higher perspective, very higher dimensional perspective, beyond our human perspective of a third dimensional being. And then we also have to remember too, like, we are souls, you know, we created these type of things to be able to happen on the earth in case if things got how they are, or in case if we needed certain lessons to be learned. But there's ways to not have to experience it, and that is through awakening our collective. And we start with ourselves. We start with awakening and mastering ourselves, being the leader of example. So again, yeah, we'll finish up that one right there, and then we'll do one more after this, and then close out for now. Part 1 of the Emerald Tablets. So again, he talks about the Atlantis falling so far into so much corruption and darkness that literally the only way that it could be saved was total destruction to the civilization, because it hit that threshold. And that's what happens when in a universe a form, a matrix system becomes too far out of balance. It becomes too far out of balance. It has to hit the threshold. And when you hit that threshold, it's total destruction into a new beginning. Life is eternal. Every total destruction turns into a new beginning. So it's like, yeah, Atlantis had total destruction, but then there was the next civilizations. And then there was the next civilizations. And then the next civilizations. And then we had all of our modern civilizations. And now here we are in this current civilization that we're in. And we're actually in the middle of a destruction process right now of the civilization that we're moving out of and moving into. So think about that as well. Right now, currently, we're going through a destruction of a civilization process. And we're heading into a rebirth. We're heading into a new civilization. And we're here to live and experience through it. Some of us, that is. Some of us will be like Thoth and be able to stay in the eternal connection to spirit through this experience on earth. And some of us will give into life and death and the polarities and end up having to go through life and death. So this last one that we'll go over for today, or for tonight, as it is 10 p.m. over here, it is deep in Earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing, directing, the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos until that great fire changed its direction. So we have deep in Earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing, directing the change of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos until that great fire changed its direction. Whew, what a way to close out on this one. I'm going to take a moment to process this one. Okay, so, yep, here we are. So this last one that we're speaking on here, this is talking about how deep in the earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing, directing the changes of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting using the logos till the great fire changed its direction. So this is pretty much saying that the earth and the children of earth, the humans, the beings of earth, are directing and changing the way that the eternal fire, the way that the source, the way that the creator is being transmitted, is being changed through different forms, which is a logos. A logos is a form, it's a container for the spirit to express itself. So he's just describing how the earth and the beings of earth, with their vessels, their instruments, their avatars, which is also us too. Remember that. There's no separation here. This is also about us. That is what we're doing with these human instruments on this earth. Is we are using these logos, which is our bodies, as ways to direct, shift, and change the eternal fire or the eternal spirit. Until the eternal fire or eternal spirit no longer has a purpose for this body. Woo, I got chills. Straight chills all through my body on that. And that's where we're going to be leaving off. Wow. I almost have tears in my eyes from that one. This stuff is so deep. Like, I can't even believe Spirit has me on this mission right now with you guys. Like, damn. Hugs. Hugs for humanity. Man, this is crazy. Woo-wee. How much more is there of this tablet? Like, wow, guys. We might have to do like 3 episodes just for the first tablet. But we're going to take our time through this. We're going to really dissect it and make the most of this. You know, there's no need to rush through this. There's no need to feel like we need to be like, oh, you know, we need to have this done within like this many days. Nah, we're gonna sit together and go through this in a very, very, very thorough, intuitive, and digestive way, because there's some serious medicine, there's some serious awakening codes, and there is some serious reprogramming that is embedded within this that can do many things for you in your life. And it can unlock you in abundant ways, manifesting ways, and very generational creating ways. Anyhow, back to that last part, and we'll close out for this SaCrEd Light Community Nightcap. Emerald Tablets, Part 1. This is Day 1, Part 1. Tablet 1 of the Emerald Tablet studies. And this is already how jam-packed it's been. And this is just Thoth explaining who he is, introducing himself to us. He hasn't even gotten into the stories of Atlantis or anything beyond that. Okay. So that last one where we left off was okay, yes, the logos. I really love this one. So again, he's explaining, deep to the earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing, directing the change of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting using the logos until that great fire changes direction. Look, how cool is that? He's talking about the earth and the children of the earth, the beings of the earth, basically using their bodies, which are called the logos, as instruments to change, direct, and shift the eternal fire, the eternal spirit, to shift source until source or consciousness no longer wants to exist within that body or that logos. And that's what's saying by until that great fire changed its direction. So basically, the consciousness existed with the body, and while existed with the body, it was using the body to shift, change, alter. And then once it was done, needing to experience with that body, it then left that logos or that body and went into a different direction of form. And that's what we are. That's what the I am is. As crazy as that sounds. The source experiencing itself through all forms. Wishing you good food, medicine, shelter, and love. Aw. Thank you. I would need £1,000,000 for this class. Yes, this is definitely like a master class right now that I'm just doing online with you guys for free for the public. But that's what it's all about, though. It's not about charging you guys or making money. I want us all to have awareness of what we are and what we're capable of. And if anybody wants to donate, I do accept donations for these lives that I host and put my time and energy into. You guys can see it on the ticker at the bottom. Take Cashapp, PayPal, and Venmo. And if you guys need it, you can always message me as well. Anytime you want to donate, I appreciate it. Always. And with that being said, I think that's where we're going to leave off for part 1 of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And we haven't even made it through the first Emerald Tablet yet, and there's like 15.
So we'll be going at this for quite a while on these Thursdays. So we may have some guests join us as well as we go through this flow. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what the master wants. We'll see who the master wants to sit with on these lives. Because this is very sensitive stuff. This is very, very deep knowledge, and not every vibration is ready for it yet. So we'll see what the natural order wants when it comes to guests during this. But with that being said, wow, what a episode. And I did not realize it's been over 2 hours. Time has really flown by. That's what happens when you're not staying bound to time. You're flown in the eternal river. That being said, let's go ahead and close it out. If you guys would like to take a moment with me and just take a few breaths, ground, and allow ourselves to kind of let go of all the information and bring yourself to your focus within. And just take a deep breath into the nose. And out. Deep breath in. And out. One more. Deep breath in. And out. So as we wrap up tonight, a couple of reminders for you guys, especially after going through such a deep programming, a deep reassembling of your paradigm and the way that you perceive life. Make sure you're honoring yourself in the ways that you need. In case if you're like mentally sensitive, or you're kind of tender, or maybe even just really tired, just really honor where you're at. Hydrate yourself really well because of the mental energy you just used. And if you have any parts of you that may be releasing and letting go, find the ways that you need to support that and nurture yourself with self-care. And nourish yourself well with good nutrition. And just remember to take it easy on yourself if you maybe think outside of things that we read tonight, or you kind of slip into patterns of negative thinking. Just remember to give yourself grace, and part of remembering that you're an eternal being is knowing that you have the next moment to change your energy and change the vibration, and that you have the next moment again. So with that being said, I thank you guys. Any closing words to anybody in the comments, feel free to put it in the comments. Show some love. If you want to show some love, give me a like, give me a share, subscribe, whatever it is that you feel to help support. I appreciate you guys, and I love you. Everybody have a blessed night. Wholeness and balanced love.